Welcome to another edition of Dan Frequently Asked Questions. In this edition, we're going to be talking about a number of things, including traumatic brain injury 24 years prior to an individual wanting to take up diving. Keep watching. We got the following questions from a diver. The first one was whether a person would be able to carry on diving after a traumatic brain injury that happened 24 years prior. It would, of course, depend on what the neurologist and the diving physician have to say, but the important consideration really would be whether or not the individual developed epilepsy or whether the traumatic injury itself caused some sort of functional deficit, including changes in executive function. In other words, the ability to think clearly and make sound decisions. If epilepsy is present and the person is still on medication, or if the person's ability to function in a psychomotor mode of diving in an effective manner, those would be issues that may either determine whether they can or cannot continue diving. The second was a question as to whether a person can dive if they have become an asthmatic. Now, the first thing that we would ask is, why has a person become an asthmatic? Usually what happens with asthma is it is developed during childhood and then may persist during the course of a person's life, or they may, to some extent, outgrow it. If asthma develops during a person's lifetime, then we consider two primary conditions. The one is exposure to chemicals and other things, usually during the course of a person's vocation or occupation, that precipitates reactive airways disease as a result. And the second being smoking or some other form of lung damage that causes wheezing but is not asthma in the traditional sense of the word. In broad strokes, though, once the underlying condition has been identified, the second aspect is whether it can be controlled. And the asthma that we consider controlled is asthma that responds completely to inhaled cortisone on its own or in combination with a long-acting bronchodilator. You don't want to have a short-acting bronchodilator wear out during a dive, leaving the individual with suboptimal pulmonary function during the dive. So those are usually the things that pulmonologists look for when making a decision as to a person's ability to dive or not. If the person's a commercial diver or an instructor and dive master that may do a lot of rapid ascents and descents, we usually don't encourage them to take it on if they are active asthmatics. But if the asthma is under adequate control, then it would not necessarily be a contraindication to diving. So the bottom line is stable asthma, no significant underlying cause that may add additional risk factors, and the person should be on a medication that is acceptable for diving. I hope that that gives you enough information on which to base your decision and come to a safe and sensible conclusion. Until next time, for the rest of you, safe diving.